So right now is, in my opinion, one of the best chances to not only earn more money, but also plan to save enough money to even retire. And for more context, this is because of current geopolitical and economic events sort of lining up to create additional opportunities. And obviously, there's a lot of misfortune that has been caused by these aforementioned events, right? But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we can't sort of utilize this chance to earn more money. And again, definitely plan for retirement as well. So starting off with some potential ways one can increase their income right now, and the first method is to simply negotiate a raise on your wages. And I say this because the economy and the current situation has sort of created a perfect storm to negotiate higher wages or even find a higher paying job. And that's because of, first of all, inflation causing our goods and services that you have to spend money on to go up in price, and also there being a sort of worker shortage from sort of the remnants of the pandemic, right?
Right.
And so first, many companies would be willing to pay higher wages to hire and keep employees. And secondly, because of higher prices of goods and services, these people who are being hired or are looking for a raise are more justified in doing so. And so that was the first method. And the second method that I'm actually doing right now as I speak into my camera to record this YouTube video would be to create additional income streams. And in my opinion, one of the absolutely best ways to do so would be to start your own YouTube channel, and preferably on one of your hobbies or passions on which the topic you can just basically talk at length on, right? And without having to really plan too much or do any sort of extra work, and sort of be able to enjoy as well while you create your videos. And now if YouTube's really not your thing, there's definitely other side hustles you can start as well, right? Such as doing your own website, such as a blog that you can, write about your favorite hobbies on, and even supplement through and earn through Google AdSense by placing ads on your website, and also placing things like affiliate links where people sign up for a certain service or buy a certain product from a link that you put on your website with no additional cost or commitment. Of course, you can actually earn commissions that way as well. And in addition to that, you can also do things like freelancing nowadays, especially because, like I said before, there's sort of a worker shortage, right? Because of the pandemic situation and so on and so forth. You might be able to demand command higher prices on even websites for freelancers like Fiverr, Upwork as well, and always pay attention to some of the new trends for what's in demand right now, right? For example, if we go into Fiverr, which is one of the largest freelancing websites, there's a new category called NFT art, and not only that, but there's also NFT development as well. If you go to programming and tech, where people can help create collections, not only the artwork, you can also do the collections to help them set up the NFTs on certain blockchains and so on and so forth. All this is fairly easy to do. And you can definitely find free tutorials on, doing, any sort of this NFT work or other types of work on Fiverr as a freelancer as well, right? In fact, right on my YouTube channel, I have a ton of tutorials for various types of freelance work that people can do online using free software. So be sure to check those out if you're interested. But coming back to YouTube, I personally believe that it is now easier than ever to start a good YouTube channel right now, even as a complete beginner, without investing necessarily into a lot of gear, if any, and also just using free software to do any of your editing. That's kind of how I got started as well, even though that was a few years ago. But nowadays, I think it's even easier than ever, especially since smartphones you can just use as a recording device, right? You don't necessarily have to invest in a camera or a webcam, because many smartphones, if not most smartphones, have very good video recording capabilities. Not only in terms of the video quality, the image quality, but also the audio is good as well. And I found that especially if you're in a niche where there's news constantly coming out, where people would actually be searching up those specific keywords on YouTube and Google, there's a much higher chance for your videos to get more views than if you were to just do, sort of random-ish topics. But not only that, there's also a higher chance of those videos going viral, and thus not only making you a lot of money through ads and whatever promotions you have running on the video through that virality, but also if you're not yet monetized, or if your channel is not yet monetized, 1 or 2 viral videos, usually one, will greatly push your channel past the threshold or benchmark needed to get monetized, which is the 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time. And for an actual example of this from my own gaming channel, which granted does already have about 8,000 subscribers, although the videos that I recently created on it are completely on a different game that I traditionally made videos on. So initially, this channel was based on a completely different video game, but because that game became a lot less popular and I sort of stopped playing it, I stopped making videos on this channel, so it sort of became a semi-dead channel, so to speak. But recently, as of a couple of months ago, as you can see here, in November, December, I decided to make just two videos based on a new game that I was playing. And again, it's a completely different game, not related at all, or barely related because it's sort of from the same company, but it's a different genre, different game altogether, that I made videos on for this channel. And both of those videos basically went semi-viral. Again, with barely any precedent, being completely new topics on this channel, and I'd earned about $500 just last year, just from those two videos, each getting about 30 to 40,000 views. Not bad at all, I would say. So it's an extra $500 plus that I pocketed just from creating a couple of easy videos, such as this one here, which I earned $278 from this one video. Again, just by creating these sort of casual videos on activities that I already do, right? Hobbies of mine. And I literally just recorded footage while I was actually playing the game. So it was killing two birds with one stone, being time efficient, so to speak. And then I just threw together some of the video clips, talked about it, right? Obviously, I have experience as a YouTuber, right? So that's what makes my videos probably better, right? Than a, say newbie. But, the fact still stands that I was able to just sort of make completely unrelated videos to my original channel, sort of go viral and just earn money very, very efficiently from just two videos. And in addition to what I earned on my gaming channel, I also happen to have one of the best months ever on this main channel, where I earned about $2,500 in the month of January alone. And what I wanted to point out for this specifically is that not only can your videos earn you sort of passive income, in that even really old videos from months, if not even years ago, can continue getting views and thus earn you ad revenue. And this has been a case for me as well. So that means the more videos you make that do that, the more sort of passive sources of income that you can stack up, right? So that's sort of the snowball effect of YouTube, so to speak, or sort of the accumulation with YouTube that can be possible, as long as the videos that you make back then are still relevant in the future. The second thing is what I said earlier about my gaming channel. The viral aspect of it can still work. For example, the videos that have earned me the most ad revenue for this month that I'm showing you are actually based on NFTs, or on the topic of NFTs, which was and still is sort of, but in January it was a lot hotter of a topic, and in December as well. The keyword was really popping off, and thus I was getting tons of traffic through YouTube search, believe it or not, and that was able to get me that much more views and thus ad revenue for those couple of months. Now, if you're at all interested in this, which is creating your own YouTube channel based on your hobbies or interests or whatever it is, I have a free guide right on my website that I'll link down below in the description, which will cover things like how to pick a niche. And there are several parts to this, and I'm actually still updating this as we speak, so you can just keep coming back for new updates. And this will just basically be here, forever. And I'll update it as needed if there are new, things to be updated for what's more viable for YouTube at the moment. But anyhow, you can go through part 1, which is niche picking, and sort of an overview of how people earn on YouTube. And then there's also things like different types of video styles that you can go with, free resources that you can look for in terms of recording your videos, editing your videos, and so on and so forth. Even mastering audio, or just getting additional royalty-free music for your videos, and so on and so forth. And also different types of gear that you can consider if you're not just using your smartphone, of course, on various budgets. So these are just some of the things that I've covered on my course. There's a lot more, and even more to come. So feel free to just check this out on my website. I believe this should be pretty helpful, and it's also concise for the new prospective YouTuber.
Trust me.
Alright, and with that, let's now get into how to invest for retirement with a few very simple formulas and principles. But first, I also want to preface this part by saying that right now, based on historical price levels and events, seems to be a decent chance to get invested in terms of where things are in the market or how cheaply, so to speak, stock prices and other investments are compared to, say, historical levels, right? And that's because mainly right now there are a lot of uncertainties regarding geopolitical events as well as economic events, right? Mainly the conflict in Europe right now, as well as inflation happening around the globe, and especially the US Federal Reserve looking to raise interest rates in the US, which will have a global impact, no doubt. Now, there's still definitely a chance that investable assets like stocks could further go down in price, especially if things continue to escalate. But at the same time, if things actually get better, then obviously there could be a sort of a bull run after this already sort of depressed levels that we're seeing right now, right? And so in my opinion, it would be fairly prudent to at least start getting involved, or not to invest everything necessarily, obviously right now, because that could be risky, right? There's sort of a risk-off environment or climate right now, so to speak. But what you can actually consider is something called dollar cost averaging, which is investing bit by bit over the span of, say, weeks or months, just to sort of have a smoother way to get into the market without exposing yourself to that much risk. So that's definitely a way to sort of consistently invest and also beat the markets, because people also say that time in the markets beats timing the markets. And it's not really just a saying, but it's mostly true, in fact, based on historical evidence. So by dollar cost averaging, especially into an index fund of some sort, usually the S&P 500, which is the index fund, and there are ETFs for this, so you would buy the ETF, the exchange traded fund, such as the BOO. These ETFs that tracks the S&P 500 index fund has traditionally and historically always been very consistent compared to even stock picking, and has beaten stock picking for the most part. So this is sort of a simple way to get invested, dollar cost averaging, investing in an index fund. And also right now could be a good chance to start getting involved, because we're at a relatively sort of lower and cheaper level compared to, say, a month or two ago. So personally, I'm nibbling into the markets right now, obviously not going all in because of potential risks, but also not trying to risk if the markets go up, right? Which is why I want to be very much invested actually right now. And with that, getting into some simple rules that anybody can follow to plan for exactly how much they need to save and invest for retirement. We first of all have the rule of 25, which is if you take your yearly expense, so how much you think, or you can actually look at your records if you do that, if you do keep those, but basically look at how much you need to spend per year, or how much you need to not only survive, but just your total spendings, right, essentially, for the year. Multiply that by 25, and that should be the amount that you should aim to have invested, not just save, because investing would mean sort of appreciation in stock or whatever you're investing in, the value, right? If you just save, the likelihood is that your money in the bank account might actually not be able to beat inflation, which is also increasing, right? So basically you want to have your money invested, and the rule of 25 is the amount that one should have invested based on a 4% annual return. Again, essentially that is the amount one wants to have invested by the time they retire, right? So by having that amount invested, again, usually in an ETF, assuming a 4% yearly return, which is actually quite conservative, would be considered, say, the S&P 500, which traditionally has had a much higher annual return on average, up to 10%. And if we just, even be more conservative, let's tone it down to, say, 6 or 7%, that's still a lot higher than the 4%, which this rule is based on, right? So if you, for example, only invest in the S&P 500, which is, again, the US top 500 companies, and there are ETFs that you can buy to track those exactly. So if you just buy those ETFs, or that one ETF, you could actually potentially have to save less than 25x your yearly expense if your returns exceed 4%, right? So you can think of it as personally, I try to aim to have this much invested, 25x my yearly annual expense by the time I retire. That's my my baseline. But any amount that goes beyond that, if I get in better returns than 4% per year on any year, again, none of this is guaranteed, right? Because you can't really predict the future. but based on the past decades of history, the returns have been significantly higher than 4%. Again, if you're investing in the S&P 500, which is why people like Warren Buffett even recommend, most people to just invest in the S&P 500, because again, this oftentimes beats picking stocks. All right. So if the returns again are better than 4% on average, that would just mean either I could retire faster, right? Because I would get to save to a certain amount quicker, because it would be a lessened amount, or I could just maybe spend more based on the returns that I'm getting, per year as well, right? So I could even adjust my expenses, maybe even live a slightly better life depending on the returns I'm getting. But 4% is sort of a conservative value, because if you invest more than 25x your yearly annual expenses, the rest of your investments will still be growing at a faster pace, 4% or higher, than the amount that you can spend in that year, thus giving you that sort of infinite money loop. And your investments will never go down in value unless you really go out of your way to spend even more money. And again, as for what you should invest in to sort of guarantee these types of returns, the S&P 500 in the US and an ETF based on that is the most consistent based on historical trends. But if say you live in a different country and you don't have direct access to some of these ETFs, look for if your country offers a index fund of its own that tracks the US S&P 500, right? I know that there are some in my country, or there is one in my country, or that tracks certain types of US indices. Or you can also check your own country's stock market and indices to see the historical trend of that. And if the average is comparable to the US one, even if it's a bit lower, as long as it's about 4%, the rule of 25 still applies. And going beyond this, if you want a slightly riskier approach, what you can do is take any extra income or a portion of your savings to still try to guarantee the rule of 25 through, say, ETFs and a reasonable retirement age, but put the rest of that, expendable, say, savings or income into more riskier assets, to essentially, if any of those riskier assets explode in price, that could definitely accelerate your, say, age of retirement, right? Or maybe help you live a more lavish lifestyle, if that's sort of what you want to gamble for. And it's personally what I'm sort of doing. I do invest in things like crypto, although those are a very small part of my portfolio. And if you want a more detailed breakdown on how to basically allocate and what types of riskier assets that I invest in, I actually did a video on my investing channel that I'll link below as well. And last but not least, another very useful and easy trick that you can use to help you figure out things like your retirement age and how much you actually need to invest, in addition to what I've already described, is the rule of 72, which is basically if you take the number 72 and divide it by the interest rate that whatever you invest in has, perhaps historically, then you'll get the number of years it'll take to double that investment. So for example, if we're talking about the S&P 500, on average it has about let's say a 10% annual return. So if we take 72 divided by 10 rather, that'll be the number of years it'll take to double your investment. Alright, and with that is pretty much all I wanted to show you guys in today's video. There is a lot of information, I realize, so if you have any questions at all, feel free to comment down below and I'll try my best to answer. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you like this format of videos, because it's something sort of new that I'm trying for my channel, and also let me know what types of videos you'd like to see as well. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Peace.